speakers. Everybody but this next guy is a very happy person. So remember, after lunch today, we are splitting off into the sessions, and then tomorrow morning it'll be sessions. Mr. Crenshaw, raise your hand. Everybody here know the Iron Geek? Yeah, give him a big hand. He is recording all of them. They will be on YouTube and Iron Geek. If you miss something, the speakers will be here. He is so fast, their probably afternoon sessions are already there. We will meet back here. Come to the party tomorrow. It's awesome. The theme is Retro Tech. We didn't specify because for me, that's TI-99-4A. For some of my employees, that's Nintendo 64. So do whatever you want. Now, we'll give this book... I found one other person, and then we're going to get to Mr. Johnson here. I love making him wait. I saw someone in the elevator yesterday and said, "Hey, are you going to ShowMeCon?" And they said, "Yeah," and then ran out of the elevator. Are you here? About 11:30? Are you freaking kidding me? I can't give away this book. You, right there. You got the book. Attacking Network Protocols. You looked at me funny. What was your name? Adrian! Come on up, Adrian. I can do what I want. Screw you. All right. Well, without further ado, this man doesn't know anything about security. We found him on the side of the road in Florida. He's very shy. He does not have very many opinions. In all seriousness, I met Kevin B-Sides Tampa 3 or 4 years ago? Too fucking long ago. Yeah. Oh, by the way, he has an X-rated presentation. It's X-rated. What? The HDMI cable, it's not very technical. Web developers, what do you do? Kevin is the founder of Secure Ideas. He is professionally evil. I've known Kevin for a few years. I have seen Kevin on and off. Before then, this guy I worshipped. I got to see him, and he isn't, a god. He didn't float in. Kind of floated in. I have learned quite a bit from him where, this is a great industry because in other industries we'd be competitors, but we're partners in this, and we get to sit down, we get to chat, we get to have a great time. He's trying to figure out how to plug the cable in. If you have never dealt with Kevin, you're going to have a great time here. Please, without further ado, welcome the professionally evil Kevin Johnson.
There we go. Thanks. I never know how to respond to introductions of me because I don't like me. I'm Kevin, right? I've been Kevin for 45 years. I've been Kevin Johnson for 18 less than that. You figure it out. I don't do math. So I'm going to be talking about vulnerabilities, exploits, attacks. Shit, I don't know. That's a record. I haven't even gotten past the first slide. But I have a presentation style that I would hate to listen to. I'm full of tangents. I'm full of lots of things. My eyes are brown, so you guys can go there. I'm going to tell you some stories. I'm going to try to make them relevant. There's no promise. I will warn you, I have a sense of humor. Please note, I did not say a good sense of humor. I said a sense of humor. I did also yesterday do a conference. Here's a recommendation. If you're ever invited to speak at a conference about something to do with Latin America, be prepared for the conference to be completely in Spanish. For reference, I don't speak Spanish. So they had somebody introduce me. That person did the introduction completely in Spanish. He stopped talking, so I started to walk on stage, and he started talking again. To this day, I still don't know what he said at all. So that was my day yesterday. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We've already done a bit of an introduction to me. I'm not going to do a lot of introduction. I'm a nerd. That's what it boils down to. I'm a nerd. I am the head nerd at Secure Ideas. I am so nerdy that the dude who used to take my lunch money still does. He makes a damn good Subway sandwich, though. The other thing that I'm very proud of is, beyond my kids, the fact that I have a wife who I tricked into marrying me. She has amazing taste, except in husbands. I am a member of the 501st. For the people who don't know, the 501st, my wife says it's the nerdiest thing I've ever done. I told her that she met me when I was 26, so she doesn't know. But she may be right. We build and wear screen-accurate Star Wars costumes, raise money for charity. Indirectly, in 2016, we raised $11 million worldwide, right? So we do, and not me, the group, right? So we do a lot of fun stuff. That's actually me in the clone and in the Vader. That Vader picture is one of my favorites. It was a blind event. They brought 200 to 300 blind kids in. They had them watch the movies, which I thought was kind of neat, neat, right? They referred to it as watching the movie, which I'm not making a joke. Language is interesting to me, even though I barely speak English. And then they had us stand there for 3 to 4 hours and they felt the costumes, which was kind of neat, right? We're crying in the helmets, but there's no other way to put it. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm an opinionated son of a bitch, I think is the right words. I rant. And I've been involved in IT for too damn long. I'm a fat, lazy old man. And I got my first job professionally in 1991, right? And I've been involved in IT, not as long as Ken, but so, sorry man, you sat up front. So, but I've been involved professionally since 91. I've been involved in security for the last almost 20 years. I got involved in security because the company I worked for got hacked. And I got mad. And I've told this before. Matter of fact, I think I've told it before here, is that I got pissed and I said, that's never going to happen again. And we got hacked again like 3 to 6 months later. So I was wrong. And over the last few years, I've seen something in our field, our community, our industry, our I want to be fucking famous industry, right? Which irritates me. And it's that we seem to have forgotten the basics. We seem to talk about stupid stuff. That's interesting, that's exciting, that's fun, right? But we're not actually helping anything. And I don't know about you guys, but I believe that our job is to help, right? I'm a pen tester, and being a pen tester affects every single thing I do, right? I look at things like, we'll pick on the Equifax breach, right? A company that everybody knows to hate because they're a credit bureau, right? They got breached. Why did they get breached, right? They didn't patch struts. It's easy to say that, right? As a matter of fact, they got in front of Congress and said, there's one guy who didn't patch. Bullshit. But, so we all, we can pick on them, right? We can make fun of them, we can laugh at them. But the reality is, they tried. My understanding, and I want to be very clear, they're not a customer, I didn't work the incident, right? But my understanding is, they knew about the vulnerability. They knew the patch needed to be applied. They knew that they were going to have to rewrite portions of their application for that framework to be patched. And so they rolled out web app firewall rules to block the known attack. And the attacker figured out a way past the web app firewall rules. And I'm not going to stand up here and say we should all love Equifax. I'm not going to stand up here and say they're without blame, okay? But I am going to say that if that is true, if what I just said was true, and I believe it is, then they did exactly what we recommend to every one of our customers, and yet they still failed. We shouldn't be hating on them for it. We should be understanding that we could be in their shoes tomorrow. We should be understanding that what they did, while may not have been the best options, were halfway decent options. They were options that we would have done, right? And the hating on them for those options. Not hating on them for being a credit bureau. That I'm fine with, right? Hate away. But hating on them for doing what they felt was good enough, the best they could do, just means that the next time somebody says, you say to your management, we can't apply that patch yet because of these legitimate reasons, and we have this web app firewall, the answer is going to be, well, that's not enough. Well, we know it's not enough, but it's better than nothing. And how many people here don't believe that their boss is going to tell them, do good enough, right? And if the choice is do something or do nothing, most bosses are going to take the opportunity to do nothing. And that's why we're in the state we're in right now, right? Because there's a cost to what we do. We are the people who cost money. We are the people who stand up and can't show a benefit for the money you spend. And don't get me wrong, I'm a horrible salesperson, right? I can't show you any benefit for hiring me. That's not true. But we're just a cost, right? Like any company that stands up and says, I can show you the ROI of a pen test, punch them in the throat. I mean, seriously, right? There is no ROI. Well, if I hack you, you're going to make an extra $1 million this year. No. I'm a cost. The average cost of a pen test from security is $25,000. Right? I heard a whistle. Was that a whistle like, oh my God, that's expensive? Or, oh my God, that was cheap? Like, I'm just curious. But the average cost of a pen test from security is $25,000. Right? That's money you're not going to get back. I mean, unless you demand a refund and sue me, I guess. I don't know. Nobody's done that, which I guess is good. That's success, right? Nobody's ever sued you. It's a cost. And if we say to people, well, you know, if you did a web app firewall rule, if you tried to block the attack and you still get hacked, we are going to shame you in the press. Then why bother doing it? If either way, you're going to get shamed. If either way, you're going to get embarrassed, right? On the flip side of it, we talk about really, really cool things. Did you hear that attack? Did you hear about the double-blind cross-site scripting injection attack that was released this morning? Right? That's because I made it up. But you thought about it, right? Because we now are full of vulnerabilities with names. We're full of vulnerabilities with logos, right? What's the new one? Zip blind that was announced yesterday? I don't even know what that means. Zip blind. Now, I understand it's something to do with uploads of files that are zip compression, and you can do remote command execution if the application is vulnerable. I guess I do know what it is. But it has a name, and it has a logo, so it must be critical, right? Our job is to understand that security is important. I don't think that's difficult to say in a room like this, right? We know security is important. It's what we do. How many people here believe that security isn't important at all? Yeah, I didn't think I'd get any hands for that, right? Security is absolutely important. We're seeing more and more breaches. We're seeing more and more attacks. We're seeing more and more organizations that think they need to fix stuff. But the reality is most organizations don't know where to focus, and our job is to show them where to focus. I talked about this last year. Right? You guys remember a few years ago, there was a smart connected tea kettle? And somebody found a vulnerability in the tea kettle that would enable them to attack the network. It was a DAuth wireless attack. It was no big deal. It was the same thing we did in like 1870 against wireless networks. I might be exaggerating slightly, but it was a tea kettle, so it got news. It was in the BBC. Well, I guess that makes sense. Britain talked about tea kettles, but I don't know. That might have been racist to say. But, people called me. I got a phone call from a bank. Kevin, what do we do about the tea kettle threat? That was that's a quote. I'm like, the tea kettle threat? I mean, I like tea like the next guy, but never thought of it as a threat. Well, Kevin, if we have tea kettles on our network, I said, well, there's the problem. Right? You said if. Don't you know? You're a bank. They used to be my bank. Do you think I'm kidding? Like, how do you not know? Where do you focus? I have another bank that I do business with. They're a client. And periodically, as part of them being me a vendor, right, periodically I get an email from them. And the email says, Mr. Johnson of Secure Ideas, there's a new vulnerability that's critical, and we need you to tell us whether or not you're impacted by it on the systems that do business for us. If you are impacted by it, we need to know your plan to patch and remediate this vulnerability as soon as possible. You have 24 hours to respond to this email. I have an autoresponder in my email. Every time I get that email, I reply back with, I'm not vulnerable to that. Yeah. You want to know something? I'm not lying. And here's why I'm not lying. We're not allowed to use our systems to test their systems. The contract we have with them, they literally have a collection of laptops that we gave them directions on building, that they are responsible for patching, they are responsible for hardening, and when we go on site, we're not even allowed to bring our machines into the building. So the statement of, on the systems you manage that work for our organization, are you vulnerable to this? The answer is no. I don't have a single system that I manage responsible for the work I do for that bank. Yet I get that email all the time. And I know that I'm probably the only person that actually thinks about what I'm doing. Because I know other people are like, we're not vulnerable. Right? You all laughed because you thought the same thing. It's kind of like when you get audited by ISC squared for your CPs. Right? You don't pay attention to it. Where do you focus? How do you know what to deal with? How many people here work for an organization that has all the resources they need for security? Exactly, right? How many people here work for an organization that has an unlimited budget? If you do, call me. Right? Nobody. How many people here are like, oh my God, I don't know how to do half the things I need to do? Yeah, me too. How many people call me, hey, can you do that? I don't know, maybe. Yeah, sure. Done. How do we know what to focus on, right? We need to understand, and this is one of the things that has really bothered me. We have lost track of the why and the how. I have two daughters, Brenna and Sarah. Brenna just turned 16. Sarah literally turned 12 2 days ago. I can't believe they're that big. When they were babies, my wife and I had to raise them, right? And I don't know how many parents are here, but you guys can probably relate that that's scary as heck. Right? You go to a hospital, your wife goes through excruciating pain. I don't know why any woman signs up for that. And then does it again. Like that's... I'd like to have a second child. What are you, nuts? I'll be honest, I agree. If men were responsible for having babies, we would die as a race. Like, done. Screw that, hippie. And then, like a day later, they hand you this kid and say, go home. We'd have a car seat. Like, do you know how to buckle the car seat into a car? I don't. We went to like a fire department and there was like a guy in a suit and he came out and he hooked it into the car because you needed to make sure, because firemen for some reason know how to hook car seats up. I don't know. Like, is that a training they go through? And we had to teach our kids not to do stupid shit. Right? And I saw that guy in New York, 30 years old, living in his parents' basement, had to sue him to leave. Like, what the heck? And we had to teach our daughters not to touch hot stuff, right? And when we had to do that, because my wife is a genius, we taught them why you don't touch, right? We didn't just say, don't do that! I mean, there might have been a little of that. But we taught them that it would burn them, it would hurt them, it was hot. We taught them why. And the reason we taught them why, instead of just giving them a list of things not to do, sound like user awareness training? Things not to do. Don't click shit. That's what we tell people, right? How many people here go through user awareness training that basically says don't click shit? Right? How many of you got an email with a link to get to that training? I believe that user awareness training should just be, you get a link, and if you click it, it's like, don't do that! You fail! But that's not the training we do. But we taught them not to touch hot stuff because it would burn them. And the reason we did that was a few months later. Brenda was like 3, maybe, 2 or 3, and we went up north, and there was a radiator. Now, I know, here, you guys probably know what radiators are. My wife and I are from South Florida. I was 36 before I saw snow in real life. I still don't understand why people live where frozen shit falls from the sky. But there was a radiator. My wife and I had not listed that on the things not to touch. But luckily we didn't have to, right? Because it was hot. And Brenda knew not to touch it. We have to do that with security. And to do that, to understand that, in my mind, we need to understand what the main attacks are. We've got cool attacks we can talk about, but the main attacks out there are one of 3 things. The first one, user-focused. Users suck. Right? How many people have heard that? Yeah, how many people have said it? Yeah. Do you realize like 90% of the breaches that were discovered last year were discovered by users? Yeah. The same users that we all say suck. Our security teams didn't discover them. Our products didn't discover them. Our vendors didn't discover them. Users went, I don't know what the hell that is, but it looks bad. But we haven't taught our users well enough. And there's user-focused attacks, right? Social engineering is one of them. Password weaknesses is another one of them, right? Social engineering, people are dumb. Did you hear about the guy that flew to Nigeria? I'm not kidding. He flew to Nigeria because he had gotten his email. There was a prince, and the prince's sister was trying to kill him. And he couldn't escape. But he trusted this dude because he found him on social media. I don't know about you, but your Facebook profile looks trustworthy. I have $87 million. Will you let me send it to you? And you can keep 10. I trust you. This dude was so trustworthy, he's like, dude, you need help. I'm coming. And he flew to Nigeria. Like, how did customs deal with that one? Are you here for business or pleasure? Actually, your prince is in danger. I can just see him like walking up to the castle. I'm assuming there's a castle. Hi, I'm here to save the prince. Not to be rude, but isn't that the opposite of every fairy tale in the world? Just saying. I'm just going to throw that out one, right? Evil princess. I'm killing my brother. I don't know. But people fall for this stuff. We got emails like the trusted bank one, right? I've seen phishing attacks that are delivered from Chase. The subject line says Bank of America, and the body of the email says Wells Fargo. And people click it. I've talked to them. I've talked to people who've done it. Hey, why did you click that link? And they're like, well, I have an account at one of those places. I'm dead serious. My father-in-law, before he died, great man. I love Lenny to death. I guess I can't say I love him to death. That sounds awful. Lenny's a great man, smart guy. He responded to lottery emails. You know the emails I got, right? Like, you won the lottery. Send us your social security number. Because that makes sense. And I would talk to Lenny. I'm like, Lenny, I'm a security guy. You're making me look bad. And his answer was, how do you know it's not a real lottery? I'm like, it's not a real lottery. How do you know? Are you telling me it's impossible for a lottery to be delivered by email? Well, no, it's not impossible. It is theoretically possible that in some universe where I'm smarter than Stephen Hawking, that there's a lottery delivered via email. But it's not this one. But people fall for these attacks, right? We did an attack of a university. I've talked about this one before, right? We sent out an email to all of their staff. Due to the election of Trump and the repeal of the ACA, open enrollment has had to be moved to this week. instead of next. We sent that out to 100% of their staff. We addressed it from the head of HR. 98% of their staff clicked the link, logged in, gave us their credentials, and attempted to do open enrollment, including the head of HR. We went to her and we said, what? Why would you click that email? And her answer was, I had to enroll. She was pissed. Passwords. Passwords suck. How many people here's password is spring 2018? You're lying. Did you say summer 2017? It's not summer yet. I guess it is June. Shit, when does it? I live in Florida. We do have seasons. Hot, hurricane season, tourist season, hot. So somebody said June 22nd. Oh, the solstice, right? Isn't that? Okay, cool. So it's not summer yet. Yeah, your password's wrong. I'd never guess it. People don't understand passwords, right? How many people here have been told don't use a dictionary word? Right? How complex is this? Other than size, length, whatever you want to call it. How complex is capital B, 4, lowercase s, 3, H, @ symbol, 1, pipe? Other than length. Sounds pretty complex, right? Except for the fact it spells baseball, right? That's a dictionary word. No, Oxford doesn't have @ symbol. Yes, it does. It's not the type of dictionary we talk about, right? We're talking about a dictionary of what I'm doing, where I'm creating a list of possible passwords, right? And we don't have to get that complex because most people's password is password. That's how they remember it. I'm old enough, though, that I wanted to set my password to 7 question marks followed by the number 1. So you used to play with Cain and Abel, didn't you? He's old. Because when Cain and Abel would hack a landman hash, it would break it into 2 pieces, right? And if it hadn't cracked the first half, it would just display 7 question marks. That way the hacker would never know they got it. That was my plan. It's kind of like, what's your password? 16 asterisks. We deal with passwords all the time, right? And people do stupid passwords. The spring 2018 one, that's a real one. When we do password spraying attacks, which is where you pull the policy, right, to see how many for lockout, and then you pick a number lower than that, not higher. I've seen pen testers do higher. Luckily, they don't work for me. But, and then you try common passwords. The company name. I'm sorry, but if you set your password to your company name, you're a moron. I would ask, though, please stop setting your password to mean things about your boss. Because it's uncomfortable for us to tell them. I cracked so-and-so's password. What was it? I'd rather not say. No, I need to know. What is their password? What's your name again? My name's Fred. Oh, I'd rather not say. No, what is it? Well, their password is Fred's an asshole. But they couldn't have been talking about you. That happens way too often, too. Right? Password spraying. How do we fix this? I'll be honest. This is one of the few times I have a slide with 1 word on it. Okay, there's 2. We have to educate people. People have to understand why it's important. People have to understand what the issue is. Right? I taught a class years ago, and I had this guy in the front, and we were talking about password cracking. And this dude said to me, and he was serious. He said, I'm not worried about password cracking. I'm like, I'm not either. Why not? And this guy looked me in the face and said, I have the world's strongest password. Cool. World's strongest password, really. Let's ignore the fact he has one. Right? Like, there's already a fail. Not I have the world's strongest passwords. Right? I have the world's strongest password. So I asked him, what is it? He told me. It was a name. Dead serious. It was a name. It was like 6 characters long. Like, now I can't think of a 6-character long name. Because as dumb as this is, I'm not comfortable telling you the dude's password. How stupid is that? I said to the guy, that's not that strong. I mean, how do you say that, right? Like, how do you, like, I don't want to be a dickhead. And the guy's like, really, thanks. Okay, you're right, I do. I love my job. You all suck. But it's what we do, right? We go in, we tell companies they suck, and we go home. So I said to the guy, that's not a strong password. And he's like, of course it is, Kevin. I'm like 53 years old, and that's my dog's name when I was like 5. And like, look, I'll be honest, we're all laughing at the dude. But if you look at it from his perspective, what he understood was that somebody was going to try to guess his password. And his answer was, nobody knows what my dog's name was from when I was 5. And you want to know something? He's right. He is. Right? He's not right that it's a strong password. But if his assumption, his initial idea that somebody was going to try to attack him was correct, then that's a strong password. I can't believe I just said that. But for that attack, that is a strong password. His wife's name, his kid's name, his date of birth, right? But I had to explain to him that that's not what the attack is. And the problem was he didn't have this. He was ignorant. I want to be very clear. I understand that when somebody gets called ignorant on social media, they're mad. Ignorance is not bad. Ignorance just means you don't know. Now, if you're willfully ignorant, now you're a jackass. But ignorance is something that is our job to fix. We should be educating people, and not by sending them an email with a link in it to get that education. Right? Let's start going out there and changing what people know. Let's start teaching people. Right? Right off the bat, stop using APT as an excuse. I always get a kick out of it when you hear about it, right? Oh, there was a breach. It was an advanced threat. How did it start? Somebody clicked the link. I thought you said it was advanced. Like, oh, be clear. I forgot to say this. Did you guys notice? I own that domain over there. DocuSign.com. I think it's a Swedish D. It's probably not called a D. It's got a dot under it. Did you notice? I also own Box.com with a Cyrillic X. Right? That's why I say stop teaching people to hover over things. How many people have heard that, right? Hover over the link. Look to see if it's legitimate. Would you notice the dot? The next attack we see a lot of is network-focused attacks. Right? This is a historical worry. We always talked about, oh, we have a firewall. Good. It's got a hole in it for port 80 and 443, right? Yeah. Outbound traffic. Do you limit what your users can go to? We block porn. Okay. It's not what I asked. But do you block Pornhub's VPN service? Hell is that? Like, come on, really? Do you block malicious sites? Yes. So you block Fox News and CNN? I'm an equal opportunity offender. No, but seriously, both Fox News and CNN at times have served malware through their advertising system. Oh no, we can't block that. People need to know the news. God, no, they don't. Not today, right? And I'm not even going to do fake news. It's not fake, it's just crap. Do you block Gmail? Right? Do you block outbound? So what we do is we have the user come to a site that's legitimate. How many people here block exploits.professionalevil.com? You should. Don't click that link. It does exactly what it says. Professionally, though. Yeah, totally. And what we do is we compromise that machine and then we pivot. Right? And we're now that person. We are now that user. That's why it changed from red to blue. Would you notice? We go into organizations on a regular basis. And people are like, how did you get in? Well, first we did the social engineering, right? Got somebody to click a link. We compromised their machine. And then we went to your SharePoint site and searched for the word password. And about 9 pages in, because the first 8 pages of results are things like, use your password to log in. That's not useful to us. But about 9 pages in, approximately, that spreadsheet, exactly, right? The username and password for all of my sites are. We were at a bank. I love hacking banks. I really do love hacking banks. Because most banks are cocky. You talk, I don't mean to be rude about banks. Okay, I am. But you go in at a bank, if you're on site, there's always that one jackass. We're a bank, you can't hack us. Really? Let's be clear. If I ever do a pen test of your organization and you're that jackass, your user ID is the one I'm going after. You're going to be in every screenshot. And I'm going to say, it's not Bill's fault we compromised you. He's just the account we used. Over and over. But there's always that one guy, right? Like, oh, you can't hack us. And so we go out to SharePoint or the wiki. Oh, we're open source. We use wikis. Okay. And we find those documents. We're at this one bank and we find this document that is literally a spreadsheet from IT that has not default credentials, but like the main sets of credentials for every single one of the mission critical systems. And it's very important to have this spreadsheet because that's DR. Right? They're preparing for disaster recovery. We have to be able to bring the system online. Why do you need the password? In case we forget it. I think you made it to D, right? You had a disaster. You didn't quite recover. So we pull down the spreadsheet, and there's a database called the Regulated Employees Database. That sounds interesting. And it's got a username and password, but it does have a note that says only the 5 IPs below are allowed through the firewall to the database. And it listed the 5 IPs. So we pinged all 5 of them and found the one that didn't answer and set that as our IP address and access the database. Thanks. Right? And let's be clear, how many people actually segment their internal network well enough to block this? No. We talked to one organization. They do entire network segmentation. You know what that meant? They had firewalls. I mean, they didn't have any rules on the firewalls. All traffic was allowed from segment to segment, but damn it, they were segmented. We had another company that brought us in, right? Their IP range, 10. 10? Yeah. Every single floor in the building got their own Class B size network. Yeah. Now, that sounds like great segmentation. Except there were no firewalls inside the building, and they had a staff of 120 people. Like each Class B had like 3 IP addresses in use. It was painful, but they believed that they had segmented their network well. because they misunderstood what a segment was, right? And we talk about this, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's the bad examples. They're all bad examples. Very rarely do we go into organizations and have them not allow this. We had one organization, we were doing an architecture review, right? That's a cooperative exercise. We sit with them. This was a power company. Their transmission and distribution network required you to go to a Bastion host. Makes sense, right? Like, that's good. That's good. We log into this Bastion host. It required two-factor authentication to get onto the Bastion host. So they're showing us how they manage their systems as part of the architecture review. They RDP into this box, right? Okay. Two-factor auth. As they're showing us stuff, they lose the connection to the box. What happened? Oh, the box, it crashes. What do you mean it crashes? Well, the system we have, it's underpowered and it crashes periodically. Don't worry about it. What do you mean don't worry about it? Is it going to reboot it? No. We'll just access the systems directly. What? So they had a Bastion host, but because it crashed all the time, they just turned off the firewall rules. And they all agreed that if the Bastion host was up and running, they would use it. I'm not making this shit up. That's the worst part. Like, there are times I wake up in the middle of the night. My wife makes fun of this. I wake up in the middle of the night from a nightmare, right, about hackers. And it's not that we all got hacked and the world's ending. It's that they're all laughing at us. And they should be. Now, to make it fair, we can laugh at them because they put the word anonymous right next to their Facebook profile picture. Proud member of Anonymous. What? Do you not understand what that word means? How many people here are a member of Anonymous? It's worth asking. Right? Some dude in the back's like, me! Fail. But how do we fix this? Segmentation. The worst part about that is that's not new. This is not groundbreaking information. Oh my God, segmentation. We should segment our network. Yes! Fail. And then tie it to education. Sorry, but that's going to be on every slide. Education. We have to educate people because I talk to network teams, right? How many people here have NetFlow turned on their network? Every hand should go up. NetFlow is free. It's free. And it will tell you who on your network is talking to who. That's it. This machine talked to that machine from this port on this port and transferred about this much data. It has zero impact on the performance of your network. I know. Nothing has zero. Okay, it has negative impact, right? Like, I don't care. And you can get baselines. You can actually look down and go, why the fuck is that machine talking to that machine? Go find out. But without knowing that, without looking at it, right? Nothing against the sponsors. I'm a sponsor. I got a booth, right? I got acronyms. They've got good products, I'm sure. But if you can't do the basics, I don't care how great that product is. It's just a cost. It's the same thing for us. We have customers come to us all the time. We need a pen test. Are you sure? I've never had a pen test before. Oh God, you don't want a pen test. Kevin, I want to pay you. I know. I don't want to beat you up. I become the bully. I go into networks, right? It's like, you have not patched your network in 37 years. Like, I've gone into organizations that have deployed new computers and then backdated file. Like, they've actually removed patches. Dell shipped the machine currently up to date and they uninstalled shit. Why did you do that? Well, I haven't tested that patch. I know, because you removed it. We've gone into organizations. You realize it's 2018? And there are still organizations running Windows 2000? I'm serious. That's older than either of my kids. can legitimately say your software was released last century, you're a failure. Except I will admit, I run Windows XP. And the reason I do is because most hackers don't remember it. And the ones that do are like, this gotta be a honeypot. Right? I think that'll work. Don't fuck with that system. He's obviously monitoring it. The worst part is people will take that as real advice. Kevin said I should run Windows. No, I did not. It was a joke. The last attack we're going to talk about is application focused, right? Applications are where we're moving everything. I love talking to people, right? Hey, how are your web applications? We don't have any web applications. You don't have any web applications? No, we don't. How do you access things? Well, I go to GitHub. I use Salesforce and Office 365. So you have web applications? No. Right? I always love, my other favorite one is private cloud. Anybody else laugh at the term private cloud? You know that means data center, right? Your data center. Just saying. It's a tangent, I know. But applications are the biggest thing we've got, right? After user-based attacks, applications are the second most common way for attackers to get in today. Why? Because it's where shit is. We expose stuff with developers who read PHP in 21 seconds and are now architects. We've been interviewing. We were hiring developers, right? And we interviewed some developers. And we would talk to these people and be like, okay, what have you built? Well, I have a GitHub repository. No, that's not what I asked. What have you built? Well, I forked this project. So did I. Right? One of my guys, Mike, who is one of our main developers, he refers to it as full stack overflow developers. And he may have gotten that from somewhere else. So if he stole it, it's his fault. No. But full stack overflow developers, how do you learn? I Google search. Let's be honest, I'm a Google developer. I Google what I need and I cut and paste the code. Right? But we have people, this is the OWASP top 10. The 2013 and the 2017 version. Let's pick on one of the ones up there. SQL injection. It says injection, but SQL injection is one of them. Do you understand that SQL injection was discovered over 20 years ago? Do you realize at the same time they released the paper about SQL injection, they released the solution, parameterized queries? It is the only security solution I know of that, one, there are no known exploits to bypass that control, 0 that are public. 2, your application will perform better with it turned on. If you turn on and use parameterized queries, your application will improve performance. Remember my conversation about ROI earlier? This is the only exception to it. Last week, I was doing a web app test and found SQL injection in an application that was built in January of this year. Fail. Right? Oh, but we have all these cool APIs. Right? People are moving APIs. How many people here run applications that all they do is call other APIs from services, right? Yeah. And do you know that those APIs in almost all cases have no security wrapped around them because they put it on the front end application as its responsibility? And you want to know something? I agree with that reasoning. The API I provide, I don't want to lock things down because you're the only person that's supposed to call it. And I don't want to cause problems for your app because I don't know your app. Or we have single page apps, which is just a stupid word, phrase, name, whatever. And we run these automated tools against it, and we think that's good enough. Right? The reality is, again, just like with everything else, we need to educate people. It all boils down to education. If we don't educate, we are going to fail. And then on top of education, we need to test. And this is where if I was a really good businessman or actual greedy capitalist, right, I would tell you that the best way to test would be to hire secure ideas. But the reality is, that's not necessary. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like paying payroll every 2 weeks. Let me rephrase that. I like being able to pay payroll every 2 weeks. But the reality is that what I do is not requiring any genius. You've now sat through almost an hour of me speaking. You know I'm not a genius. And if you don't, you haven't been paying attention. I'm a glorified QA person. I am. The difference between me and the quality assurance person, the QA person, is what we do with what we find. A QA person puts a single quote in a login field, gets an error message back, goes, oh, and opens a ticket. Fix that. I giggle. I giggle a lot. I have the happiest job. The only way I could make my job happier is if I did it at Disney World. It's because it's the happiest place on the earth, right? I giggle constantly because my job is that easy. You can test. You should be testing your stuff from the very beginning of development. Your developers should be testing stuff. And this goes back to the beginning of the conversation, right? You have to show them what to focus on, hence the OWASP Top 10. Give them a focus. I've talked to lots and lots of developers, right? We train developers. We teach people stuff. And we talk to these developers, and they're like, Kevin, we can't keep up. What do you mean you can't keep up? Every time we turn around, there's a new vulnerability. Server-side request forgery, client-side request forgery, blind cross-site scripting. Blind cross-site scripting. Do you know what blind cross-site scripting is? Cross-site scripting. The difference is the exploit doesn't run on the tester's browser, so they don't know if it actually ran. Do you know what that means? Nothing. Well, when I was testing, I injected a cross-site scripting payload and I didn't get an error message, so it must be used somewhere else in the back end. That's a bad pen tester. Sorry, it is. I'm not saying it's not possible that that exploit landed on some back-end system and I didn't see it. But if I inject something and I don't get an error, I don't get a block, the application appears to continue to run perfectly well, what do? I call my customer. Hey, I just injected this. Are you seeing any signs of that? Is there a back-end dashboard that's reflected into? I communicate. If instead all I did was write a report, I'm an asshole. But these developers say to me, Kevin, we can't keep up. Every other day, there's a new vulnerability category we have to worry about. Every other day, somebody's like, oh, this is awful. Do you know what every vulnerability in a web app is? Every vulnerability, practically. Injection. It is. I injected a payload the application took in and used a way it wasn't supposed to. Cross-site scripting, it's an injection. SQL injection, it's called injection. Remote command execution. That's a fancy sounding one, isn't it? What is it? An injection. If we just explained it that way to developers, they'd do better. Right? If we stop treating security as something separate for applications. Because let's be honest, if I put a single quote in a form field and I get a database error message, right? How many people here are like, yeah, SQL injection? Do you know what else that is? An error. Your application shouldn't do that. Very few applications are written so that if you put a single quote purposefully, you get an error message back. Right? Has anybody seen that as a requirement for their enterprise applications? We want to have at least one form that gives a SQL error message every single time somebody puts a single quote in. Right? That's not a user story. Except for Matilda and DVWA. The vulnerable web apps that are available. Stop reporting bugs to them. You have a security hole. The page SQLinjection.php is vulnerable to SQL injection. Wow, you're a fucking genius. But educate people, right? That's what it boils down to. And I know this was not a great talk about cool new exploits, but the reality is that is what we see every day. That is what we find time and time and time again. I go into organizations and I find that they are locked down. They have DLP. They have monitoring. They have all of this cool shit. Every acronym you can come up with, they've deployed something to control it. And I can browse to the SharePoint server and search for passwords. I can log in with a password of spring 2018. I can send an email out. Hell, do you know how many times I do phishing attacks? And the person who hired me to do the phishing attack, the person who approved the phishing attack, clicks the link. I'm serious. It's embarrassing. Like, hey, dude, you weren't supposed to click it. The first phishing attack I did that happened, I do the test, I send out the approval email, right? That's what I do. Like, Becky, you want to hire me, right? I'm going to pick on Becky. Sorry, you sat up front. Right? And I know your name. That makes it worse. So Becky hires me to do a phishing attack. I want to be very clear. I'm just using her as an example. She's never done this. She hires me. I say, what kind of phishing? Oh, Kevin, could you do this? Okay, yeah. So we build up the template. I send it to her. I go, hey, is this okay? She looks at it. She goes, yeah, that's good. Cool. So then I send the attack out. And I copy her. So she knows it happened. So that when people start reporting it, she'll know what's going on. She'll be able to see that it's happening. The first time it happened, right? All of a sudden, I send out the email. Hey, is this okay? Yes, it is. Okay, I did the attack. Great. 5 minutes later, Becky clicked the link and gave me her credentials. The first time it happened, I thought the person was testing the link. That afternoon status call, I said to the guy, hey, Bill, you did not need to test that link. Test what link? Oh, shit. The worst part is he had domain admin credentials, which meant that within 5 minutes, I had gotten domain admin credentials, and I ignored them. I'm like, no. Luckily, 5 minutes after that, a different domain admin also clicked. Educate. Talk to people. Stop being the white tower of awesomeness that we all want to pretend we are. Right? Dave said it when he got up here and introduced me, that this is a weird industry, that he and I should be competitors, yet we're friends. We work together. We bounce work back and forth. We help each other out. We educate. I've learned things from him. I'd like to believe he's learned stuff from me. Probably not. I'm stupid. We're in a field where it's okay to ask. If you're ever working with somebody and you ask them a question and they're rude to you, they won't tell you the answer, what that says is they don't really know. That's what I found. Every time you have that asshole on Twitter, Gregory Evans, who just shuts people down, like, oh, why would you ask me that? The reality is they don't know. Because the real people who know stuff, the Becky Turners, the Dave Cronisters, the H.D. Moores, they answer the questions. They help out, right? Every single one of us should be the same way. Ask and answer. That's it. And I'm keeping you all for lunch, so have a nice day.